For years, the NBA convinced us that the best player in the world is the guy that does everything. 30 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. They control everything, run the offense, be the offense.
I'm not a system player. I am a system.
And look, the numbers are insane. That's why guys like Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, and LeBron James are viewed as basketball perfection because what they do almost feels impossible. But what if the best player archetype isn't the guy who's doing everything? What if it's the guy who's dominant enough to take over games while leaving room for everyone else? Because there's a difference between making your teammates better and allowing your teammates to fully be themselves. Now, if you like this type of content and want to see more of it, hit that like and subscribe button. And in the comments below, let me know if you think that the triple-double is becoming a little bit overrated. Now back to the video. LeBron James is one of the greatest passers ever, one of the smartest players ever. But there's a reason why people say he turns stars into role players. Chris Bosh went from a 24-point per game offensive centerpiece to a floor spacing big. Kevin Love went from a 26 and 13 monster to standing in the corner for half the game. Even Luka has turned LeBron into a spot-up shooter at times because Luka controls so much of the offense.
I've never been a third option in my life.
And that's where this gets interesting, because the unselfish players are often the ones dominating the offense the most. Not just by scoring, but by controlling the pace, the ball, and making every read and decision. And over time, teammates can start turning into spectators. And this is where I think modern basketball changed something important. Basketball used to be way more role-based. Everybody had a job. You had rebounders, scorers, playmakers, defenders, rim protectors. And yeah, positionless basketball is amazing because now everybody is skilled. But it's also created an era where one player can absorb every category on the stat sheet.
Marcus Camby, he would take the ball from your hands and he would say, like, your contracts aren't based on the rebounds, mine are.
That's my list. I'm number one up there for a reason. Don't take my rebounds.
And honestly, that clip explains this conversation perfectly. Because rebounds, assists, and defensive responsibilities used to belong to other players. That's how players got paid, found rhythm, contributed, and became valuable. But now, some superstars score 30, grab all the rebounds, initiate every possession, and rack up every assist. And while it looks incredible statistically, sometimes it takes jobs away from everyone else. That's why I think there are really two types of superstar archetypes. The first is the control superstar, the player who is the offense. Think of players like LeBron, Luka, Jokic, and Russell Westbrook. They raise your floor instantly because they solve every problem themselves. But then there's the second archetype, the gravity superstar. Guys who dominate games without needing to control every possession. Players like Steph Curry, Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, Tim Duncan, and now we have a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Anthony Edwards, and a Victor Wembanyama. These players bend defenses constantly, but the offense still breathes around them. And despite all the selfish scorer narratives that you can track back in NBA history, a lot of those guys actually coexisted with other stars better than the triple-double guys. Steph allowed Klay Thompson to still be Klay and Kevin Durant to be Kevin Durant.
I'm Kevin Durant. You know who I am.
Shaq was one of the most dominant players ever and still left room for Kobe and later Dwayne Wade. Now there's this narrative that Jordan or Kobe couldn't put up LeBron or Luka type numbers. But Jordan played point guard for a 24-game stretch in 1989 and averaged over 30 points per game, 10 assists per game, and 9 rebounds per game. He had 10 triple-doubles in an 11-game stretch, and it showed that he absolutely could have done it. But eventually, Chicago realized having Jordan do everything wasn't the best version of the team. And honestly, I think we're seeing this conversation happen again in real time. Look at Cade Cunningham. Cade was incredible. He's a big guard that can score, pass, and control games. But in the playoffs, you could clearly see that he was the offense. Not necessarily because he wanted to be, but because the team needed him to be. And eventually that becomes exhausting and predictable. The regular season success was real, but playoff basketball exposes overdependence fast. And I think that's why this generation is so interesting. SGA leaves room for Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren and other stars to grow. Anthony Edwards coexisted with Karl Anthony Towns and now Julius Randle. Wemby leaves room for De'Aaron Fox and the other young stars like Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle to be big contributors. Meanwhile, some of the do-everything guys run into the same issue. Their teams become too dependent on them. Even with Jokic, who is amazing, as his role expanded more and more, Denver slowly became more and more reliant on him offensively. And ironically enough, losing a scorer like Michael Porter Jr. hurt, because sometimes you need that player that can go get buckets without the offense always running through one player. And that's really the whole point of this video. This is not a triple doubles are bad. Obviously not. Jokic is one of the greatest players ever. LeBron is one of the greatest players ever. Westbrook is one of the greatest players ever. But maybe basketball has overrated the idea of one person doing everything. Because sometimes being the best player doesn't mean controlling the entire offense every possession. Sometimes they're the ones dominant enough to take over the game while leaving room for everyone else to be great. Now, if you like this type of content and want to see more of it, hit that like and subscribe button. And in the comments below, let me know if you like the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Kobe, Jordan type of game, or if you like the Jokic, Westbrook, LeBron type of game better. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.